While the F1 driver market went into overdrive during the week between the Dutch and Italian rounds, it was the action on track on Sunday which now dominates the headlines, both for the right and the wrong reasons. Here are 6 things we learned from the 2021 Italian Grand Prix. Daniel Ricciardo still has it. It had been more than 3 years since Daniel Ricciardo had last won a race. In the 2.5 seasons since he'd left Red Bull and Formula One's Class A, to join Renault and then jump ship to McLaren for this year, there had been more down moments than up. Since changing into orange and blue, he'd faced a major gap to his rising star teammate Lando Norris as he struggled to adapt his style to the MCL 35M. Being lapped by Norris at Monaco on the 3rd anniversary of his most recent triumph had clearly hurt. But as he reminded us on Sunday, the real Ricciardo never left. After being revitalised over the summer break, things began clicking into place. He'd qualified an excellent 4th at Spa and out-qualified Norris as McLaren struggled badly at Zandvoort. In Monza, after being edged out of 3rd place in qualifying by just 0.029 seconds, Ricciardo was raging, albeit in a genial, very honey badger way. Sprint race progress and then seizing the lead from Max Verstappen from the off on Sunday proved his credentials at a track where McLaren has gone well of late. Then he held off Red Bull, upped his pace when required to preserve McLaren's 1-2, and delivered a now famous win. The real Ricciardo is back in the F1 spotlight where he belongs. The latest Verstappen versus Hamilton clash changes the F1 title fight dynamic. When the dust finally settles on this year's World Championship, will there be any more iconic a shot than Verstappen on top of Lewis Hamilton's car in the gravel trap at the Italian Grand Prix? The clash between F1's title rivals at Monza has delivered the latest dash of controversy between the pair, and will likely result in a notching up of the intensity of this year's title battle as the season heads to Russia. Things between the pair had appeared to calm down after their British Grand Prix clash earlier this year, coincidentally also the last sprint weekend, with the drivers pretty much staying clear of each other at Hungary, Spa and Zandvoort. But, as Hamilton complained of being forced wide on lap 1 at Monza, it was a similar tight chicane moment halfway through the race that triggered another coming together. With so much at stake this year, the likelihood of more incidents actually seems to increase rather than decrease. It's clear that neither driver seems willing to be the one who wants to concede positions. It will now ultimately boil down to a test of wills in not being the first to blink, but equally managing the risk versus reward factor. Will it get deliberately dirty and one of them try to take the other out on purpose? No, we don't think it will go that far, but will there be more wheel banging and potentially race-ending accidents? More than likely. F1 is in debt to the halo again. Regardless of whether you deem the incident at the Italian Grand Prix to be a racing incident or not, one thing we can hopefully all agree on is that once again, the safety measures in Formula One has seen both drivers walk away from their accidents. When Verstappen's Red Bull was launched into the air by the sausage curbs at the first chicane runoff at Monza and made contact with the top of the Mercedes, there is a very real chance that Lewis Hamilton would not have walked out of the incident unscathed had it not been for the halo. The slow motion replays and incredible pictures that have come out from the incident show how the most cambered part of Verstappen's rear right tyre actually lands on Hamilton's head, pushing it down and forward into the cockpit. But the halo ensured that Hamilton's head was kept away from being touched by the full weight of Verstappen's car, and was only briefly tagged by the wheel as they both came to rest in the gravel. The FIA's official crash tests mandate a peak maximum vertical loading of 116 kilonewtons, which roughly equates to 12,000 kilos or 12 tonnes, which, for reference, would also be enough to fend off a London double-decker bus, 3 full-size Indian elephants, 109 Arnold Schwarzeneggers, or 550 million grains of rice sitting on top of the halo. So the 752-kilo Red Bull car of Max Verstappen ensured that Hamilton was well defended against a shock impact, protecting his head from injury. Once again, thank you safety in Formula One. Sprint races still have room for improvement. Now, despite the protestations of Ross Brawn that it generated plenty of action, there was a feeling that F1 had once again been left short-changed by the sprint format. Although it created the conditions for Ricciardo's shock wing, with McLaren's soft tyre gamble helping to get him onto the front row for the Grand Prix itself, the sprint should also be judged on its value on its own. And as at Silverstone, the sprint spectacle paled in the drama stakes compared to the traditional qualifying format. The main action was provided by Fernando Alonso's switchback move on Sebastian Vettel, exiting the second chicane, Sergio Perez taking 2 attempts to pass Lance Stroll, and Yuki Tsunoda's progress from 19th to 16th after pitting for a new nose. It was hardly a great advert for F1. A point Perez made in no uncertain terms, saying it was boring for fans and boring for drivers. With the sprint format also resulting in unusual timetables that were a source of frustration, it still has work to do to convince F1 stakeholders of its value beyond the initial 3-race experiment. Bottas delivers for Mercedes, but not when it really counts. On the week of Bottas' exit from Mercedes being announced, with the Finn moving to Alfa Romeo from 2022, the Italian Grand Prix rather summed up his recent form and fortunes. At a track where Mercedes was expected to be dominant, he duly delivered by taking pole position in Friday night qualifying and converting that into a trouble-free sprint win. While he can't be blamed for being sent to the back of the grid when Mercedes opted to give him a complete new power unit to ensure he has enough parts to finish the season, Bottas faced a simple task over the 53-lap Grand Prix distance: charge from the back and finish as high up as possible. And he made a stellar start, climbing into the top 10 within 22 laps of the race, and the safety car after the Verstappen-Hamilton crash presented him with the chance to pick up more places. Restarting 6th with the fastest car and faster medium tyres than his rivals on hards, this was his time to strike. But after dispatching both Ferrari drivers, his window of opportunity faded as he struggled to find a way by Perez. Although Bottas profited from Perez's time penalty to take 3rd, and going from last to the podium is no easy feat, he never found himself in a position to fight for the win against the McLarens. 3rd was enough to extend Mercedes' Constructors' Championship advantage over Red Bull, but what Mercedes really wanted was for Bottas to be making inroads on the victory. In the end, Bottas' lack of cutthroat racing at Monza underlined one of the reasons why he's being replaced by George Russell. F1's next generation of power units edge closer. The series chiefs are clear that hybrid power units run on fully sustainable fuel is the direction that will put Grand Prix racing in a good place for years to come. Current manufacturers, as well as those not involved in F1 yet, agree on that plan as a concept, but as always, the devil is going to be in the detail. Things are nudging forwards, and the latest meeting at Monza on Sunday has offered us some indications of where we might end up from 2025 or 2026. Chances are increasing that F1 will abandon the MGU-H, which converts heat from the engine exhaust into battery power that can be then deployed by the drivers. The incredibly complex and expensive technology was always viewed as an area that F1 could lead the world on, with knowledge flowing into road cars. However, direct transfer has been limited. The MGU-H's complexity has also been a turnoff for new entrants, with Volkswagen in particular not especially eager to join the F1 party if it faced catching up on more than a decade's knowledge that its current rivals have gained. Current engine makers have accepted that the MGU-H can go as part of a compromise to get VW in. But nothing is set on that yet, especially as they won't want to lose the MGU-H if there is no follow-through from VW. Current Formula 1 manufacturers got burned in 2014 when a lot of compromises were made with current turbo hybrid rules to get Audi in, only for the German car maker to decide against it in the end. There have been hopes that the Monza meeting would deliver a breakthrough. That hasn't happened, but there remains plenty of time to get things sorted yet. What was your biggest takeaway from the Italian Grand Prix? Let us know in the comments below, and if you want to read more of our takes, head over to our website autosport.com to read the full 10 things we learned from Monza. Thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you're new here, and we'll see you next time.